Hello, beautiful souls. I hope you're well. Today, I have the honor and pleasure to have with me Dan. Dan, who I met at JSEC and had the opportunity to exchange with. A lovely person, beautiful soul, very inspiring projects to bring to the world for this series of manifesting a positive reality on Terra. Welcome, Dan, and the floor is yours.
Well, it's great to be here. It's the first time I've done anything like this, and I really appreciate what you're doing, Abigaëlle. And hopefully, we can bring some things to light to get people thinking about things. I'm an architect. I've just been involved in this kind of stuff seriously since 2000. So I'm kind of a newbie, but I've always kind of felt drawn to it. And I was at JISC both years, so I'm really absorbing all that and still trying to get grounded back to earth. And what I really want to feel like is connected to an organization, feeling like you're gelling with it, you're a part of it, and you can actually impact and change that organization, and that the organization's working for you and you're working for it, and it's really a symbiotic kind of unity type consciousness. And I thought I got a little taste of that in architecture school. So what I'd like to do is relate three events from architecture school, and they build upon each other. And I think they're scalable to some of the things we're seeing today. So I'm going to wind the clock way back to 1977 or 78. In architecture school at that time, it was about 10% female. Now it's 50-50. But it certainly wasn't back then. It was kind of construction related, and it wasn't supposed to be a guy. It was supposed to be a guy thing. So, and this was a class or two ahead of me. So I reaped the benefits from it, but I wasn't right there. So a female student was groped by a professor in the back of a lecture hall where they have a projection room. They project slides that we're supposed to memorize all these wonderful architectural things. Anyway, so she went to the head of Department of Architecture, and said, "I've been groped by a professor. What are you going to do about it?" And the professor said, "Well, I can talk to him, but he's a tenured professor, and I really can't do much." So, I mean, she came back to studio at night, and we work in studio all hours of the night, sometimes all night. We're building models. We're trying to solve these impossible problems, and we really build quite a camaraderie in there. And so we started thinking, or they started thinking about, how do we fix this? Because they program us to, well, they kind of deprogram us in the first couple of years to say, we got to have you remove the limitations that you think you have, forget some of the things you learned in K-12 education. Academics won't help you solve some of these impossible problems that we're giving you to solve architecturally. So you're supposed to think out of the box. So they started to do that and say, well, how do we fix this problem? And they came up with the idea, what if every one of his students, that particular professor's students, dropped every one of his classes? So he had 0 students. What would happen then? So they proceeded to do that. Now, I don't know if it was 100%. It might have been 98%. I don't know, but it was enough for the college to really set up and take notice. And it's 400 student college, and the university is 17,000 students. So it's not tiny, it's an organization. So they did that, and it was immediately noticed, obviously, by both the college and the professor. He's walking into empty classrooms. So they called in a couple of ringleaders and said, what do we do about this? How can we fix this? And they said, well, nothing. Very politely said nothing, because he was not a great professor to begin with.
On top of
So
it.
if he was a good professor, we might have given him a second chance, okay? But he didn't. And then they said, well, what happens next quarter, into the next term? He says, well, no students will sign up for his class. So he disappeared within 2 weeks. So it's like we got rid of a tenured professor in 2 weeks, and you're not supposed to be able to do that. I don't know if everybody understands tenure, but it means it's practically impossible to get rid of a professor. You got to go through this long, drawn-out process, and they basically have to do crazy illegal things or something provable. So, and that changed the paradigm of the whole college. All of a sudden, all the teachers, all the professors were on notice that they couldn't mess up, and they had to actually try and do a good job. And whenever students had a comment or suggestion, or the end of the quarter, surveys or questionnaires they were all over it. They said, oh, how can we make this better? Let's help you out. So, and then some of the professors, senior professors say, well, we can't fix this. We tried, this is wrong, something a little wrong with college, and we tried to fix it. We can't, but you guys can. And we kind of nodded our heads, says, yeah, we know we can, but we can't quite gel enough people around that right now. So I'll go through my second event. And the second event was, and I was more directly involved because I was in the 15-person studio that this happened with. But anyway, I was saying that we work in studios all night frequently. We have to get them done, so they were open all night. But there was some vandalism or something. They started closing them at 3 a.m. So a couple of times, the custodians would call the campus police and they would say, "You guys got to leave. You're not supposed to be here." So we nice politely and leave. Okay, well, the third time this happened, uh, they did the same thing, and we left. And we were older then, so many of us had cars, so we left in 3 separate cars. And then some boss of the university police called on the radio and said, "Well, did you get their names? Did you get their IDs?" Says, "No." "Well, go after them and get their IDs." So they went out with their red lights and sirens, like it was a big drug bus in 3 different directions. They stopped us all, got our IDs. Well, I was in a car by myself because I was going to a different dorm or whatever. But one of the cars got this, idea, says, we got to fix this. It's crazy. So they decided to drive to the dean's house at 3:30 in the morning and knock on the door and say, "Excuse me, but you need to fix this for us. It's just not working." So they did that. It takes a little bit of braveness, but I think the dean and everybody realizes the students had good hearts and we were trying to do a good thing, and they were being very polite. So luckily he did not call the university police, because if they would have come and said, "You guys are the same people we kicked out 15 minutes ago," we're not. Anyway. So, and then they said, well, he got out of his window and says, "Well, meet me in my office at, I don't know if it was 9 or 8 the next morning." So they found me at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how they knew exactly what room I was in, but anyway, they went the effort to find me and says, "We need as many people in the dean's office as we can, just to bolster our thing." So it worked out well. We had a nice conversation. We got longer studio hours, but it's just kind of one of those crazy things. So I'm down to my last thing. And this was my last couple of weeks on campus. I was about done in one way or the other. And I was riding the elevator in the college, and the doors opened, and a lady that I did not know at all, I didn't even recognize her face, came on the elevator and said, "Dan, congratulations. I can't believe it. That's amazing." And I'm like, "Oh, there's no other Dan in this elevator. Okay, what's going on here?" and I couldn't figure it out because I wasn't up for an award. They don't make big deals out of awards. And even if they did, that was too. So I thought maybe she's confusing me with somebody else. So I was saying, "Okay, I give up. What is it?" And it says, "Dan, you permanently changed the college catalog." And I said, "What?" I don't know if you know what a college catalog is, but it's a pretty substantial book with a nice cover on it. It has all the requirements for all the degrees that the university offers, and all the different courses, the description of the courses, and what they cover, kind of a syllabus of everything. So I don't know how those things are created or how they're changed. And so I was still puzzled. I said, "I want to ask for that." And she said, "Well, the 10-week work travel experience requirement has been stricken immediately from the catalog, effective immediately, and no student will ever have to worry about that requirement again." And then I said, "Ooh." 2 or 3 months prior, the head of the head of the Department of Architecture called me in and said, "Dan, you can't graduate on time because you haven't met this 10-week travel requirement." And I said, "What do you mean? I'm going on PolyArc next quarter. It's a 10-week study program in..."
Dear beautiful souls, we had a little technical issue, but we're back with Dan.
Okay, we got stuck on the elevator for a minute there. But anyway, I was saying that this gal got on the elevator and had this amazing news that the college catalog had been changed, and the 10-week work travel experience is no longer there. And so 2 months prior, the department head had called me into the office and said, "Dan, you can't graduate on time. because you don't meet the 10-week work travel experience. And I said, no, now wait a second. I'm going on Polyarc next quarter. It's 10 weeks in London with a group from the college, and we tour through Northern Europe. And that's obviously travel, right? It's got to be travel. He says, well, but you're doing that for other college credits, and we can't count it for two different things. And I said, but those college credits can be earned on campus, and you don't have to go through all this travel. And I'm going through the extra effort cost to do the travel. So you need to I need to appeal this interpretation of what you're saying this means, so I can graduate on time. And he kind of squirms in his chair a little bit and says, oh, this is an empowered architecture student. I don't know if he remembered that I was in the group. It was at the dean's house at 3:30 or whatever. But so, and I could tell by his expression, says, we don't have an appeal procedure. Nobody's ever asked that before.
Yeah.
So I was very polite and so forth, and trying to be very high vibe, but trying to get my point across too. So, and I was so busy. That half-hour meeting ended, and I was busy with thesis finishing and going on the travel thing. And I said, I don't have time to pursue this. So I kind of gave it to the universe and said, hey, universe, take care of this for me. I'm sure whatever happens, it'll work out just fine. So, but I didn't expect it to change the catalog for everybody. I didn't realize what was going on there. But one of the more outspoken professors who knew me very well came and said, well, that requirement has been in the college ever since day one of the college. And years later, we created this 6-month internship that you work in a firm. And really, when we did that, we created the 6-month internship. We should have gotten rid of this sentence about this 10 weeks, because this is a better requirement. And nobody, for 10 years, nobody ever raised a question about it or really pushed the issue. So it's like, we've got to don't feel like anything's impossible and raise the issues in a high vibe way. And you never know what the universe is going to do with it. And it's going to kind of, sometimes it's not that hard. You don't have to necessarily do all the demonstrations or all these kind of crazy stuff. It's just, you got to kind of put it out there in the highest vibe way you can, and things happen. Amazing things happen. So I'm hoping we can scale that up to, the world or whatever. Obviously, there's 6 billion people in the world, and you can't get to 100%. But, with the crystal meditation with Elena Don and Dan Willis, 1,700 people meditating, boosted the Schumann resonance. So, and there's other examples of really low percentages having a really big impact. So I guess that's my thought is, feel empowered, feel like the impossible is possible, and see what happens. Throw it out there in the universe.
Wonderful. This is so inspiring, because what I love about what you're bringing today is a really tangible aspect of it. It's not just like dreams and hopes, something that's really incarnated in Terra's experience and your experience, and how we can change the world just one at a time, changing our own reality, but other people's reality in our world if we want to, if we're really united. Again, it's also this question of unity between all of us, and your group changed, things that had to be changed because, this unity took place, which is, again, a very, very important message that we really need these days in a time of chaos and division, so it's more relevant than ever. And so this is really, really a powerful something you brought to us. I thank you so much, Dan. Time flies, as you know. It's 15 minutes. But it's just not enough time to share all the beautiful experiences of everyone. But it gives us, enough to have inspiration to change our world and to change ourselves. So I thank you very much for bringing this.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and keep on doing your great things you're doing.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's really appreciated. And I look forward to perhaps see you again at a next JSEC or something.
Yeah.
And, thank you for coming on the channel and sharing your experience. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, beautiful soul. Are you on a spiritual journey and sometimes you struggle to find your direction, or you feel you need some support, especially in those times of transition? I know you have all the resources and the answers within yourself, since you are a fractal of source, as I am. But in times of need, I'm happy to offer some support, high frequencies, and intuitive pointers to simply guide you in finding back the connection to the wisdom of your higher self. I'm an intuitive transmitter and creative, and I wish to be at the service of others. So I propose 2 modalities to offer you support. That is intuitive transmission sessions called IT and creative intuitive transmission sessions called CIT. Both offer intuitive guidance and high frequencies, and at least a private Zoom exchange where we can discuss the guidance received for you and offer support in regard to a maximum of 5 questions you might have. For more information about these intuitive sessions or to book a session with me, I invite you to visit my website at abigaëllerichard.com/intuitive sessions, and I look forward to meet you. Bye.